All right, YouTube, this Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Back with another interesting story. I'm going to do a reaction to Roland Martin and his fellow black Democrats. It seems that they have really turned on Fani Willis and leaving her out there on her own because their criticism is going to be harsh. You know, you got Roland Martin saying what she did was stupid. They want her to step aside on the case because they so desperately want her to be able to prosecute Trump so they can steal this election. But the disingenuousness of a person like Roland Martin, I have to react to. He used to be someone that the black community would listen to, but his capitulation and servitude to the Democratic Party has alienated him from his own community because everything he does is in honor of Biden and the Democratic Party at the expense of whoever. So, like they always say, you follow the money. But I want you to see how critical and condescending they are of Fani Willis. So at this point, you have to assume the Democratic Party is very upset with her about being caught like that when they thought that they was going to have Trump under the needle and tie him up in court down there in court in New York and drain his funds so that he wouldn't be able to, really fund his campaign. But I want you to see how they talk about Fani Willis. Listen to their conversation. This is for fair use under the 1976 Copyright Act for education and commentary and entertainment purposes. Look at how Roland Martin and his crew really talk about Fani right now. Check it out.
They're trying to find anything to discredit Fulton County DA Fani Willis. Of course, Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, one of the top prosecutors in the Georgia election interference case against Donald Trump and 18 others. They're going to have to testify at an upcoming evidentiary hearing set to examine allegations that they were involved in an improper relationship while investigating Donald Trump. Willis acknowledged the relationship but said it did not influence the case. Georgia Republicans are figuring out how they can try to impeach the prosecutor. In fact, the state is also launching a committee to investigate Fani Willis. Joining me now, the land to discuss all of this that Willis is facing is attorney J. Edward Shipp. So, Attorney Shipp, glad to have you here. First of all, do you do any business with the Georgia DA's office?
So I've had a couple of cases in front of the Georgia DA's office, to be honest with you, Mr. Martin.
Okay, so but you're not like a special prosecutor or whatever. So just want to establish that.
No, we don't have that.
So here's the first thing, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Fani Willis, it was dumb to pick somebody she's having a relationship with to be on the team.
Okay, I'm gonna stop there because I just want to interject right here before you let Roland Martin go. Because if you watch his character, you can see he goes any way that the wind blows, but somebody has okayed it for him to throw Fani Willis under the bus. He's starting off coming out the gate with, it was dumb. It was dumb. You know what I mean? That's the start. Then he gets off into the case, but listen to their dialogue about one of their own.
I'm going to say that. Bottom line, anybody knows that this is a high-level case that everybody's paying attention to. What you do in cases like this, you want to be above board. You don't want there to be any sort of anything that can get in the way of this. And the reality is her decision to pick Nathan Wade, in my estimation, is the reason we even having all these conversations. And this is a screw up on her part because none of these discussions would be happening if she did not pick him. Be involved with whoever you want to be involved with, but the moment you bring your relationship to work, it's a problem. Your thoughts?
All right, so I will agree with you. Yes, this is one of those cases whereas you have to be on your P's and Q's to make sure that any semblance of impartiality or anything like that cannot be brought up. And yes, there was a mistake in this in which she did bring her partner to work with her. But again, we have to be mindful of the fact that this black woman is basically being singled out for these things just to muddy the water.
You notice how they getting so played out. Everything now is about her being a black woman. This black woman, you know what I mean? They want to play the race card so much at this late hour in American history that it's almost disgusting. You know what I mean? She was going at an ex-president. You know what I mean? Do you think if it would have been a man that had got caught up with the same type of thing, it wouldn't have went this way? It would have been worse. If it would have been a man who hired an ill-equipped attorney to work beneath them, then paid them absorbent amount of money, then went on trips with her, then after all this and get caught up, that man would have been through. If it would have been a man, no man could have gotten away with this. Not even a little bit. It would have been way worse. He would have been misogynistic. He would have been a sexual predator in the workplace. All of that would have came out against a man. So this is disingenuous. And I want you to see how they get paid to act as if they represent the black community, but they are so disconnected that the Democrats are almost wasting their money with these guys. They played out.
It's not necessarily a situation of any of this being a detriment to Roman's constitutional rights. There's no detriment to former President Trump's constitutional rights. All it is his attorneys are.
He's an attorney, and he know he's lying. If you being prosecuted by the DA, then you find out the DA hires a special prosecutor that happens to be her man, and they going back and forth to Washington, D.C. in this highly politicized case. It looks shady all the way around. So he's being disingenuous. He's acting like he wants to be somebody, but this dog don't hunt no more in the community as y'all being Democratic shield. It doesn't hunt anymore. Y'all turning on your own.
Attorneys are trying to do whatever they can to muddy the water. And now you have Steve Sadow, who's come in, joined in on this motion, bringing up the fact that she talked about it in church, one of our own beloved institutions in which we can normally bring our grievances to the altar.
Who is this Steve dude? Who is this?
Okay, so Steve Sadow is a local Atlanta attorney. He's representing Donald Trump in this particular matter. And that's who's his attorney for his Georgia case.
Got it. So, but let's be clear. You're an attorney. Look,
yes.
You do what you got to do to try to get your client off. So, I mean, the bottom line is that's what you do. So again,
listen to this. He says that the black church is one of our institutions. He's correct. I grew up in the black church. Never in the history of this so-called black church of ours in our community has a woman came before the congregation on a Sunday on Martin Luther King's birthday to justify sleeping with a married man, saying it was a witch hunt, calling on God, only for a week later to admit that she actually done it. Then she goes back into another church and they give her an award. This is why T.D. Jakes and Larry Reed and all the rest of y'all in that black church have turned the church into an abomination. It's an abomination because it is. This very mentality that this woman was able to take the pulpit on Sunday morning when they was honoring Martin Luther King and get up there and lie in front of the congregation and tell them that she had not did anything that was improper, only to be lying. And they still won't acknowledge that she's this man I found, and they always go back and listen to her speech and see how much she was lying in the church. They know she was lying at this point. They don't care. It's an abomination. The church has become an abomination. That's why the Democratic Party runs up in there and panders to these people. Listen to them.
There's a difference between being rightfully critical of the actions of Fani Willis, separate from, I think it's utterly ridiculous. The Republicans in Georgia are creating this committee. You've got to investigate her. Now you've got Republicans in Congress trying to subpoena her to come testify as well. And so what you really have here are, outside of the attorneys for those who have been indicted, what you really have are people on the outside trying to do all they can to get Donald Trump and his followers off from being going to trial in this case. That's what's going on.
I would agree with you. You know, you have Jim Jordan who came and tried to subpoena her when this first started. And he was saying, you know, I want to see what's going on in this investigation. And she let him know, you cannot interfere in this investigation. So, yes, I do understand your point and your point of contention, in which, yes, it was a boneheaded move. And now you have all this scrutiny on it. But at the very bottom line, for those of us in the know, you, I, other attorneys, people who actually know what's going on, we see that none of this has any substance. It's just basically a sideshow, a soap opera sideshow to say, pay attention to this. He's guilty of sin, but pay attention to this. This is what you need to focus on. They stole the taxpayers' money. They did all of this. All of these things that have nothing to do with whether or not their client is innocent or guilty.
And look, I just think that
I want you to see how disingenuous they be. It has everything to do with it. The people prosecuting the case, character has to be beyond reproach. Didn't Jesus say in your Bible that he who is without sin cast the first stone? So if she's accused of frauding the public by paying this man $100 more an hour than anybody else in her office, even though he was the least qualified, always spending cash, all that is suspect. They're playing mind games. That's why their rhetoric doesn't work anymore in the black community. Stop saying she went up in the church. That was offensive to Christian people. You know what I mean? This woman takes the stand, the pulpit, lies. You know, then she says racism as if Nathan Wade's wife wasn't a black woman. You know what I mean? This is crazy. You can't make this up.
Again, what you don't want to do is you don't want to create any of the drama that takes away from the attention on the case. That's exactly what happened here. Now she has to, now at the end of the day, her actions are causing all of this, and you got to just deal with it as it is dealt. So you're going to have to now go through it now because of bad decisions.
Yes, sir. That's correct. I can't disagree with you on that one, man.
Well, we'll see what happens. Again, we'll be watching this. And look, I don't think first of all, it's nonsensical to think that because they had a relationship that you should be throwing all the charges out. But it is causing unnecessary delays in the trial. Final comment. Go ahead.
Thank you.
No, go ahead with your final comment. Go ahead.
Oh, final comment. So I look at this and I see everything as far as, like you said, they're trying whatever they can to throw it at the wall to see what may stick. They're saying, well, she did this, it was unconstitutional, he shouldn't have been sworn in. All of these things that have gone before a judge before, and the judge said, no, it's not something that is going to make this case go away. So to continue to try it and to continue to try and muddy those waters, that's exactly what they're doing. I hate to see it. I hate that she's going through it, but this is something of her own machination, so we got to deal with it.
All right, Ben. Attorney Ship, appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. Scott, I want to go to you. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this here. And look, this ain't got nothing to do with attacking a black woman, attacking a woman, whatever. No. Fani made a dumb decision, should have thought about this, should have seen this through, and she has brought this on by picking her lover as one of the top prosecutors on arguably one of the most high-profile cases in the country.
It's like, what were you thinking? How did you think that you were going to hide this from the public or the media, but more importantly, the defense counsel? Whether it was innuendo, whether it was scuttlebutt, hearsay, what you are prosecuting. This is going to be the trial of the century, of 2 centuries. You're prosecuting a former president who's running for office. You could not have thought that this wasn't relevant,
You're right,
appropriate, or material.
No president in American history no former president in American history has been indicted.
Right.
He's now he has 4 cases. You're one of the 4. You arguably have the strongest case.
Exactly. And look, I love the but-for test, right? But for her appointing her paramour, who has questionable experience in political corruption cases. That's another part that is raising eyebrows, which is why you get investigated.
Listen to their language. Roland Martin is saying she hired her lover. He's coming back saying she has hired her paramour, which is the same thing. You know what I mean? They're throwing her under the bus and distancing themselves from her because they know at this point, Fani Willis is not going to be able to prosecute that case. She's not. It's 8 other attorneys for them defendants that still gonna get a chance to grill her. It will be a fiasco. You know what I mean? Could you imagine what it's going to look like with her and Trump in the same room? That energy, it's gonna be a fiasco. And they as so-called black Democrats right here, they throwing her under the bus. They already making an excuse. They already setting her up to blame her for what is going to absolutely go wrong.
Has questionable experience from a white-collar criminal defense standpoint, and he's one of the lead prosecutors in this type of high-profile trial. Why would you put him in that place? You can love him. You can do whatever you want with him, but he doesn't have to be the lead prosecutor because he's got good judgment or because he's a smart attorney. That's the other reason why she's being investigated. But you could not have thought that this was going to be hidden. Now, granted, it's a distraction, but you drove this distraction with a poor judgment decision. And I consider Fani a friend of mine. I've raised money for her recently within the last 6 months and stuff. It's very
With friends like him, you don't need no enemies, do you?
disappointing. Now, lastly, for your listening audience, when they go to investigate you, it's triggered all these investigations, which probably ultimately aren't going to find anything unless a political decisions are made, and they will be. But now you've got these investigations, and you don't want regulators or the FBI or anyone to start investigating you, especially if you're black or brown, because while they may not find anything wrong with this appointment and the money and the relationship, they may find other things, right? Prosecutions and investigations are about discretion, right? The IRS can look at your tax return and say, in their discretion, okay, we're going to treat this civilly. Another prosecutor or IRS agent could look at it and treat it as a criminal offense simply because they have discretion. This is a very dangerous position for her to be in. And then lastly, she won't recuse herself. She won't throw her paramour off the case. He should step down.
Yep.
And then lastly, this is even more important, that she put him on this case when he's in the middle of a divorce, which meant she was a witness to their divorce perhaps, but that's another parallel civil proceeding whereby she was subpoenaed, could have been subpoenaed before all this came out. They settled that case, but they delayed in getting this off the front pages. And you know how to get it off the front pages, make it go away. Have him resign from the prosecution team. She may or may not recuse herself, but you got to do damage control once you make poor decisions like this. And none of that's occurred, or it's not occurred in a timely fashion. That would be my best advice to her and her team right now.
I saw you shaking your head, Rebecca.
You know, in the past, I've done crisis management for elected officials, and there's many boneheaded things that I've seen. You know, I'm going to give a piece of advice out for listeners, and especially for elected officials who are watching this. If you are involved in something that's high stakes, i.e., you're a prosecutor and you are prosecuting a high-profile case, if you're running in a competitive election, something to consider is that your opponents probably have you on under some type of surveillance. They're watching where you go, what's your normal patterns, who's going in and out of your home. And you need to know that. So for Fani Willis to be prosecuting the former president of the United States, arguably, she's the only person that's standing between him and the Oval Office again, is this particular case. So she should have known anything that she does in her personal or her professional life was now going to be under scrutiny. And think about who all of Trump's allies are. He has allies domestic and he has allies internationally. When we even look at what happened in 2016, what even happened in 2020 with allegations of Russia and other countries helping to support his presidency. So she had to have known, or should have known, that all of those forces and resources behind Trump would also turn towards her. And so she should have lived in such a way to be above any type of reproof of understanding, hey, you're in the big leagues now. It's just not good enough to show up in a power suit, have your hair done, you know, be in front of the media. But this is high stakes. This isn't just, you know, for her career, but it's arguably for the presidency.
First of all, dude used to be in the Oval Office. He's running for president right now. Okay? He is the Republican leader. The entire Republican apparatus is coming after you. You. This is where you sit here and you say, everybody who's on the team, ain't nobody with a tax lien.
Right. Exactly.
First of all, you vet every person on your team. You say, ain't nobody related, ain't nobody screwing, everybody's taxes are up to date, you have paid your water bill, you have paid your light bill, you have not attended any fundraisers, you don't give the campaign. You have a squeaky clean team because, and again, I am not an attorney, but I'm smart enough to say, we can't give them anything to question.
That's right. That's right. And Roland, you know what? I tell you, I would supplement friendly amendment to my colleague. Self-investigate yourself.
Yes.
I know that's a double whatever. Forgive me. Self-investigate yourself, because I ran for office in 2006. I did a self-investigation. I had private investigators investigate me and give me your report. Because this is even worse.
But Scott, people who run for office, they literally hire.
He thought he said something smart. But that's dumb. Why would I pay somebody to investigate me? What perhaps if they find something that they could use against me and get paid for more than I'm paying them? Why would, I hired somebody to investigate myself. Like, you don't know what the hell you did? You don't know what's in your closet? You that detached from your own reality that you need to hire somebody to investigate yourself? He thought that was real smart.
People to say,
that's right.
Your job is to do opposition research. You go investigate me and you bring me the file of the stuff that they gonna use against me.
That's right.
One of the first things is who you're sleeping with.
Roland, I sat down with a candidate who was an elected official who was running for Congress. And running for Congress, he was running for a very competitive seat, which impacted which party, Democrats or Republicans, were actually going to control the House. And one of the things I sat down with him and his wife, and I told him, hey, you candidate, if you currently are having an affair, You got to keep whatever it is that you're doing right now. You have to keep up whatever it is that you're doing. Don't change anything for the next 9 months because we're in the big leagues now. I sat with him and his wife and explained that. I don't care what y'all do inside the four walls of your.
Listen to the conversation, what they saying. One of them saying investigate themselves. She say that she talked to the candidate and say anything you're doing and you've been doing for the last 9 months, don't stop. Because if they're watching you, give them more evidence. Why wouldn't you stop immediately? If after having that, I mean, their rhetoric is ridiculous on the face of it. I sat down with a couple and said, if any one of you cheating, don't change anything about that. Don't stop cheating. Come on now.
House, but as soon as it goes outside of the house, now that impacts me, that impacts the campaign. So one thing that I tell these people in these particular positions is you gotta fight like this because they are coming after you. Because the easiest way to defeat this case is to break down Fani and to break down Nathan. Just like my colleague said, fire him. You don't need Nathan. Nathan's billing the most out of the entire team. So at this point, he kind of is dead weight, and he doesn't even have the credentials or the background to be your number one biller on this type of a case in terms of billable hours. So at this point, cut bait. And like what Scott said, it makes sense if she did step back because this case is strong enough that any competent prosecutor can move it forward. So don't jeopardize this case.
I'm gonna stop there. Clearly, you seeing that they throwing her under the bus. They telling her to cut bait with Nathan. You know what I mean? They telling her how dumb she is. They're already blaming her. This is what these Democratic people do to each other. You know what I mean? And I'm glad that Roland held the platform to show what it is that they have turned on her. You know, so I'm gonna end on that note. You know, I hope you've learned something about these politicians or you listen to how they actually think. You know what I'm saying? Like, share, and subscribe. Signing to y'all, Detroit. Peace. Keep y'all head on that swivel.